It started with a whisper no one else heard. Eliza had always been a light sleeper, the type who noticed every creak of the house, every shifting shadow under the door. But when the whisper came, low, rasping, and unmistakably real, she knew it hadn't come from inside her head. It was her first night alone in the farmhouse her great uncle had left her. She wasn't sentimental, but something about the inheritance called her in a way she couldn't explain. Nestled deep in a pine forest with no neighbors for miles, the house had stood untouched for years. Windows thick with grime, floorboards warped with time, and an uneasy silence that pressed against the walls. By midnight, the house had swallowed every trace of daylight. The old clock in the hallway hadn't worked in decades, yet it ticked, each sound too deliberate to be random. When Eliza finally settled into bed, she told herself the whisper was wind slipping through the old boards. But the second time it came, closer, more distinct, it shaped her name. Just that, nothing else. Not a threat, not a greeting, just the soft drag of her name across the darkness. She sat up, pulse climbing into her throat, eyes searching the black. Nothing moved, but something was there, not watching from the shadows, waiting inside them. The second night, the whisper returned, but now it moved, behind the walls, inside the pipes, beneath the floorboards. She began to sense it pacing, listening, learning the shape of her fear. Lights flickered when she passed. Doors that refused to budge in daylight now opened on their own after dark. And the air, once stale, carried the scent of wet earth and iron. She called a repairman, hoping to blame faulty wiring or rats in the walls. He showed up, glanced once at the foundation, and left without a word. He never sent a bill. She never heard from him again. Eliza discovered the journal on the third day, buried behind loose planks in the attic. The pages were torn, soaked in something dark that had long since dried. Most of it was gibberish, symbols and runes, odd descriptions of flesh without shape, and a mirror that doesn't reflect you. But one entry was clear. It warned of the house's hunger, not for people, but for presence. It fed on awareness. If you acknowledged it, it remembered you. If you listened to the whisper, it grew louder. The house was not haunted. It was alive. By the end of the first week, Eliza had stopped using mirrors. Something in them moved independently of her, smiling when she didn't. Her reflection blinked too late. She caught it mouthing things she hadn't said. She boarded up every glass surface in the house, wrapped the television in blankets, and turned every photo frame toward the wall. But even that didn't stop the whisper from finding her. Now inside her head, sometimes layered over her own thoughts, sometimes speaking memories she hadn't yet lived. One night, she blacked out. She woke standing at the foot of the stairs, barefoot and soaked in water she didn't remember stepping in. The cellar door stood open behind her. She hadn't even known the house had a cellar. It had never appeared before, not even on the blueprints. Inside was a staircase that spiraled impossibly deep, far deeper than the foundation should allow. She descended, led by a soft, glowing hum, like breath caught between dimensions. The walls grew moist. The deeper she went, the more the steps pulsed underfoot. She realized the stairs weren't made of stone. They were ribs. At the bottom, she found a room carved from flesh and bone, organic, beating. In the center stood a figure that looked like her, but wrong. Taller, thinner. Its eyes were pits of moving static, and it smiled with too many teeth. It didn't speak with words. It spoke with memory, showing her flashes of every night she thought she'd slept, every moment she thought she was alone. It showed her the times it had borrowed her skin, walked in her body, spoken with her voice. It showed her herself through the eyes of others, her neighbor screaming when she passed by, her reflection grinning in security footage, her own phone capturing her whispering into the dark when she thought she was silent. She fled the cellar, but it followed. Not the figure. No, it never left that place, but what it had planted inside her. She began forgetting hours at a time, finding objects in her hands she hadn't picked up, the fridge full of raw meat she never bought, deep claw marks on the inside of her bedroom door. She tried to leave the house, but the road stretched endlessly, looping her back to the front porch each time. Days lost meaning, nights grew longer, and always, the whisper never stopped. Eliza began to change. Her eyes turned darker, not just in color, but in depth, like looking into a well with no bottom. Her voice developed a second echo beneath it, faint, But there, when she opened her mouth to speak, sometimes someone else's voice answered. Her skin grew colder, not from the air, but from inside. The house didn't trap her. It merged with her. Every board creaked in time with her breath. Every door hinge groaned in sync with her heartbeat. She wasn't alone in the house. She was the house. One night, years or maybe only weeks later, a traveler broke down near the forest. He spotted the faint silhouette of the farmhouse and approached it, hoping for help. The porch light flickered on before he touched the steps. The door creaked open by itself. A soft, welcoming voice called out from inside. Come in. You look tired. He hesitated, but something about the voice soothed him. Familiar, warm. He stepped inside, and the door shut behind him. Eliza stood at the far end of the hallway, her smile perfectly human. Almost. Behind her, the shadows shifted unnaturally, rising like tendrils from beneath the floor. The traveler blinked, suddenly cold, and the house whispered his name. No one ever saw him again. And somewhere far beneath the boards, the heartbeat grew stronger. The house had fed, and Eliza slept, peacefully now, dreaming your name. They told her the old barn was cursed, but Emma didn't believe in curses. Not really. She believed in forgotten stories, in local legends twisted by time. She believed in the power of suggestion, in fear passed from one mouth to another until it grew teeth. So when she inherited her uncle's farmhouse and the sagging barn beside it, she moved in without hesitation. It was quiet land, surrounded by fields that rolled toward the horizon like waves, perfect for starting over. She left the city behind and embraced the silence. But the silence never stayed quiet for long. The first night, the hallway light outside her bedroom flickered. Once, then again. She thought nothing of it. Old wiring, probably. The house had stood since the 1940s. Her uncle had lived alone and hadn't cared much for upkeep. Still, it gave her a strange feeling, like someone had brushed her shoulder in the dark. The next day, she checked the bulb and found it loose in its socket. She screwed it in tightly and thought that was the end of it. But that night, the kitchen light blinked. Twice. She stood at the edge of the hallway, staring into the dark kitchen as the bulb pulsed softly like a dying star. Then it stopped. By the third night, every light in the house blinked at least once, some in sequence, others randomly. She began keeping count. 7 blinks in the living room, 2 in the bathroom, 13 in the hallway, and always at night. The daytime was peaceful, even beautiful. Birds called from the trees, wind rustled through tall grass, and the sun cast a warm glow over everything. But when night fell, the lights began to communicate in some language she didn't understand. She asked around town, casually at first. Did they know anything about the property? The barn? Her uncle? People grew quiet when she brought it up. Some shifted uncomfortably. Others avoided her entirely. One elderly woman leaned in close and whispered, "He kept the lights on for a reason." Emma asked what that meant, but the woman only shook her head and said, "You'll see." Curiosity turned to unease. She avoided the barn entirely. It stood like a rotting carcass behind the house, its roof caved inward, while its door sealed shut with rusted chains. Vines crept over its surface like veins. Her uncle had nailed boards across the windows, not haphazardly, but with precise care, almost ritualistic. She stared at it often from her window, wondering why he had gone to such lengths. One afternoon, she found a small switch panel near the back porch, tucked behind some overgrowth. When she flipped it, a series of floodlights mounted on the barn's exterior came to life, washing the old wood in harsh white light. That night, the lights in the house didn't blink at all. She slept soundly for the first time in days, but the next evening, just after the sun dipped below the horizon, the floodlights failed. One by one, they sputtered and died, bathing the barn in darkness once more. As if on cue, the hallway light blinked. She began researching. Old newspapers, library microfiche, anything she could find. There was very little about the property itself, but her uncle's name came up once in a dated article from 1986. He'd reported seeing lights in the field behind the barn. Strange patterns, flickering like Morse code. The article made light of it, suggesting stress or hallucination. But the notation at the end chilled her. Witness claims lights always blink when it's near. That phrase echoed in her mind. When it's near. What was it? She dreamed of blinking lights, of tall shadows moving between trees, of breath on her neck in the pitch black. One night she awoke to total darkness. The power was out. Not a single light in the house worked. Her phone's flashlight barely pierced the gloom. As she walked through the house, the silence pressed in around her, thick, suffocating. Then, outside, a single light blinked. In the field, a soft white pulse. She watched it from her window, heart pounding. It blinked once, then again, then it moved. The light bobbed through the grass like a lantern, weaving closer to the barn. It stopped near the chained door. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, all at once, every light in the house exploded in a burst of blinding white, and the world outside went black. The pressure in her ears grew unbearable. She collapsed, clutching her head, and for a moment she swore she heard something scratching at the walls. She awoke the next morning in the kitchen, sprawled across the floor. All the lights were intact. The power was back. Nothing seemed out of place. But the chains on the barn door lay broken, shattered links strewn across the dirt like shed skin. She should have left, packed her things and fled. But something had taken root inside her, a compulsion she couldn't shake. That evening, she stepped into the barn. Dust hung in the air like mist. The wooden floor creaked beneath her feet. Old tools lined the walls, hooks, saws, rusted blades. In the center of the room stood a strange contraption, a tall metal frame with wires and bulbs arranged in a circle. She approached it slowly, recognizing it as some kind of light array, like a crude spotlight. Her uncle had built it. Notes littered the nearby workbench, scribbled diagrams, strange symbols, and page after page with only one sentence repeated, "The lights keep it away." She activated the array, and for a moment the barn lit up like noon. But the bulbs began to blink in rapid succession. 1, 2, 5, 7, 13 patterns, pulses, a language. She felt a weight behind her. Turning slowly, she saw it. A silhouette, impossibly tall, faceless, eyes like smoldering coals blinking in unison with the lights. Its limbs were too long, joints bending the wrong way. It stood just at the edge of the light's reach, as if afraid to step forward. The bulbs flickered faster. The creature hissed, a low, wet sound like boiling tar. And then it vanished. She staggered outside, heart pounding, lungs burning. That night she didn't sleep. She stayed in the barn, sitting beneath the light array, watching as the bulbs blinked through the long hours of darkness. She understood now. Her uncle hadn't gone mad. He had been holding something back. Over the following days, she reinforced the array. Added batteries, solar panels, backups upon backups. Every night, the lights blinked and the thing returned. Always just outside the circle. Always waiting. She studied its patterns, tried to learn its language. It never spoke, but its presence carried intent. Hunger. Then one night, the array didn't turn on. Every circuit was intact. Every bulb should have worked, but they didn't. The creature stepped into the barn. She ran, locked herself inside the house. All the lights began to blink, not in warning, but in greeting. It was inside now. She heard its limbs scraping along the ceiling, its breath whispering through vents. She tried to leave, but the doors wouldn't open. Every bulb in the house lit up at once, casting her shadow on every wall. And then they blinked. One by one, the lights extinguished. She was never found. The house was left empty, the barn sealed once more. Locals say the lights still blink sometimes, just before a storm or when the fog rolls in too thick. They say you can see a figure in the upper window of the farmhouse, pacing, watching, waiting. And if the lights blink more than 3 times in a row, you should never go inside, because the lights blink when it's near.